Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm still playing with UV resin paper and patterns using rubber stamps or polymer stamps. That's what I have here, and I'm just putting some Vaseline on using a makeup sponge, and then I'm going to stamp that down onto some parchment paper. We call it baking paper here in the UK. Now you can't see that, I couldn't see that really either. But I'm going to use some of this embossing powder. This is from a company called, it's called Melt Dust, and it's a silver pearl, and it's an ultra fine powder. So I'm just sprinkling enough to cover the area. So now that I've shaken that off, you can see that it's stuck to the stamp. I'm going to pour the excess back into my pot. And now I've got a nice coating of the powder on there. I'm going to use my heat gun to melt the powder and set that. You can see the change happening. Now I'm going to leave this to cool down before I continue to the next step. I'm going to use the Let's Resin UV resin, the clear hard type, and I'm going to squirt a blob right on the middle of the image. I'm just going to let that settle for a second. Then I can fold the parchment paper over on top of it. I'm going to use this felt edged squeegee and just make sure that I push the resin over so that it covers all of the image that I want to transfer. You can see through the resin, you can see through the paper, so you can see a darker patch. You know whether you've covered it. Once I've got that flat, I've got a heavy acrylic block. I'm going to put that on top and squash it, and then I can use my lamp to cure that. Okay, let me remove the block, and then I can open up the paper. Now if I bend the paper slightly, I can peel away the resin, and it brings the embossed image with it. And you can still see the embossed effect, even though it is quite flat. So basically I'm going to use this like paper, and I'm going to flip it over onto its back, and I've got a Copic marker. It's an alcohol pen in a pink. And I'm going to colour on the back now. I'm just going to colour the centre, because this is supposed to be I'm not sure if it's a cherry blossom or a plum blossom, but either way I'm going to colour the centre pink. And I'm not being too careful because the image is raised on the other side and you're not going to be seeing that. You're going to keep the white area on the outside. So I'm roughly colouring the centre. And I've got an acrylic paint pen. It's by the company Crawford & Black, and I'm just going to fill that. This is not the best. I don't know if I didn't shake it up particularly well, so it wasn't particularly white, but again I am roughly coating the back to give me my cherry blossoms. That's what I'm going to call them. So once I've got all this coloured in, it's going to be pretty wet, so I need to leave this to dry before I do anything else. Once it was dry, I used a pencil to mark on the inside of a bezel so that I knew where I wanted to cut. And you can cut really easily with the scissors. So I tried to trim just inside my pencil lines. If you make it too thick, it will crack, but this was all right. And then I just checked the fit. So now I need to put the bezel onto some damming tape. It's not an easy task when you've got gloves on. I'm trying not to put my fingers on the tape on the inside of that bezel, otherwise I'll leave marks and that will show on my resin. So I'll cut this to size, and I want to push down on my bezel to make sure that it is securely fixed. And now I'm going to fold over the corners of my bezel tape, and that way I'll have something to hold on to without getting my gloves stuck to it. Now I'm ready to add my resin, and again I'm going to use the Let's resin. I'm going to put down a thin layer. I want to build this up in layers. I've got to submerge my resin paper, and I want to have enough room to give it a nice dome afterwards. So now that I've got this layer in, I'm just going to use my silicone tool to spread that around. The bezel itself is a little bit beveled, so there is a slight underhang, or it goes underneath just over in those corners, so you get bubbles trapped there. So I'm doing my best to make sure that I can move those out of the way and bring them out and to the surface. And once I'd chased all the bubbles out and brought them to the surface, I was able to cure it. Now I can pull the tape off, now that I've got a layer in there. But it is only a thin layer, so I wanted to be pretty careful. I didn't want to crack it or pull it out of the bezel, so I took my time pulling the tape off. It is really well stuck. But if you just hold and pull it off, hold the bezel and pull it off really slowly, you can see that it's coming off nice and cleanly. Last little bit. Here we go. Now I'm ready to put another layer of resin in, and I'll be able to add my resin paper. So again, trying not to get any bubbles. So of course I put an enormous bubble in there. Just use my dotting tool to pop that, and then I can spread this out all the way to the edges. And again, this is not a thick layer. I'm going to push the resin paper down on top of this, and I don't want it squishing out all over the top. It's going to need another top coat after I've got the paper in. This is really just enough to make sure that it sticks down. So I'll lay the paper in, and I'm going to lay one corner down first. I'm making sure that I have got it the right way round. And I'm pushing down with the silicone tool, pushing the air out, and you can see the resin rising up. I'm pushing it out so that the air comes out of the corners and that the paper's laying flat. And then I'm going to put a little bit more resin on top and smooth that out. And then I'm going to put this under my lamp, and I will cure it from the front and the back. That's looking good, and I'm putting the final top coat on. And I just want enough to make it slightly domed. I don't want a huge dome on it. So I'll again use my silicone tool to make sure that I get it to the edges. And I'm just crouching down so that I can see the light reflected in it, and that way I can see if there are any bubbles, and there is. So I'm chasing that out, and I'm just going to use a torch, just a long neck lighter, to pop any bubbles, and I'll cure it. I don't have any gold fixings for this, but I do have a gold jump ring, so I'm going to use that. I'll pop that through the hole at the top and use 2 pairs of pliers to twist it back into shape. You should always twist your jump rings, don't pull them apart. And I've closed up the hole. And in lieu of a chain, I'm going to use this organza ribbon. So I'm just pulling off a length. I've got a doubled over length, and I'll cut that, and then I can pass that through the jump ring. And you can either tie it in a knot now or wait until you decide how long you need it to be. I repeated the process using some gold embossing powder, and I'm using a pencil. It's a Prismacolor pencil, and I'm colouring that on the back, and the paper takes the pencil really nicely. Then I will coat that with the white acrylic pen. Got a slightly smaller nib here, and you can see what I mean. This is much whiter than the previous pen I used. Once I colour the back in, I'm going to leave that to dry. Now I'm using another pencil and I want to smudge that, so I've got some alcohol. It's 100% isopropyl, and I'm just using my finger to smudge that pencil. I'm going to cut round a previous pendant to make a template. Then I can repeat the process and use this paper to make a second pendant.
In the sun at the break of day, when we're back again, maybe then we'll get drunk again. Spin around in the daylight, sup, little man on the moon. One more dance for the night, go and tell him. And ooh, slowly dancing with the breeze, as the blossom touches ground at the speed of sound. I can breathe when I'm with you. Carry back to me, flower from your tree. Pop the bottle with lips of roses, all the petals on the floor again. Spin around in the daylight, sup, little man on the moon. One more dance for the night, go and tell him.
And here's the piece finished. You can see you get much more vibrant colour with the pencil here, and I think this offers quite a lot of scope. I'm going to leave it like this, and then it will change colour with whatever clothes you overlay it. I think this technique offers quite a lot of scope, and I hope that you enjoy doing this. If you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, comment and subscribe, and I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed. It means so much to me. I hope you'll come back and see what I'm making next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.